I want to talk about Kirk Cameron. So I'm sure you guys remember who Kirk Cameron is. He was on Growing Pains. That's his claim to fame. He was on one sitcom 40 years ago. And then he kind of faded away. And nobody heard anything about him for 30 years until he sort of reemerged in the early aughts as this crazy Christian fundamentalist. And he was hanging out with, what's that guy's name? The Banana Man. What's that dude's name? The fucking banana dude? Like, I got it, Kirk Cameron Banana. It was Ray Comfort. You guys remember Ray Comfort, the banana guy? Basically said, God created bananas. You know, he's like Australian and shit. God created bananas, the perfect fruit, blah, 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 right? So anyway, that kind of got Kirk Cameron back into the spotlight. Then he started doing all these, like, weird religious movies and shit like that. Like he was in the Left Behind series and all that. But in the shitty version of the Left Behind Left Behind movies, like apparently they made like another version that was like had better effects and higher production values, and he wasn't in that one. But he got to be in the crappy like direct-to-video version of Left Behind. Right? So, which kind of goes to show that even when, like, Christians have money, they don't hire this guy to be an actor. Anyway, so Kirk Cameron is like a pretty hardcore evangelical Christian now who makes his money going around doing talks and, talking about why it's so bad to be gay and how trans kids are evil and all this other shit. And he has, and also how evolution is wrong and, all the standard conservative Christian bullshit, right? And he now has a book called As You Grow, which is, a children's book, and I kind of didn't read it, but I watched a video of him reading it, and it doesn't really seem to be anything too objectionable in it, right? A quote from him. This is a quote from Kirk Cameron regarding his book. As Bibles are literally being removed from schools and libraries, and as Christianity and faith and the Ten Commandments are being taken out of schools and replaced with toxic ideas like transgenderism, critical race theory, and the 1619 Project, I'm looking to fight back. So, yeah, that's the reason why he's now having this book tour going around to different libraries and stuff. And he's getting a little bit of pushback because people don't like it when reactionary right-wing assholes show up and spread hate and bigotry. So just, keep in mind there, I want to take his quote a little bit that I just said. He said the 10 libraries are being, Bibles are being removed from libraries and schools. Well, first off, Bibles are not being removed from public libraries. That is not a thing. Every public library out there has a religion section where you can go and you can check out multiple versions of the Bible, not just one version of the Bible. You can get the King James version. You can get the, NIV version. You can get all kinds of different versions of it. You can get multiple books on spirituality. You can get all kinds of books from crazy Christians claiming that they see fucking angels and shit like that. Right? Or that God told them that they went to heaven and they ate ice cream or whatever, and they had the best lemonade ever. All kinds, like, every library in the country has an entire section devoted to that. Christian spirituality. That's every library you will find has that, right? You'll even find some of that in school libraries as well, right? What he's talking about when they say removing Bibles from libraries, it's because you don't have Bibles in the classroom. If you went to the library in any given high school in America, you will find that same section, right? You'll find actual Bibles as well. in the library as well, right? That's not illegal. You're allowed to have Bibles in the library. You're allowed to have books that talk about spirituality, especially when it comes to history, stuff like that. You're allowed to have these things in a school library. What you're not allowed to do is make lesson plans out of them and teach them to people unless you have a specific class on religion. You're not allowed to preach to people in a public school setting. That is, a teacher is not allowed to create a lesson plan based on the Christian Bible and then teach that like it's some kind of, you know what I mean? No, that's what's illegal. And this is what they have a problem with, right? The idea that we won't do that somehow is oppression to people like Kirk Cameron. Because remember, when you're the privileged, then being treated at equal to everyone else feels like oppression to you when you have a life of privilege. Would Kirk Cameron like it if I went and, say, created a lesson plan with the Quran and taught a lesson from the Quran? Like, say I went in a social studies class and I taught a lesson from the Quran in the social studies class. Do you think Kirk Cameron would like that? Think he would like that? Think if I went and I took, say, the Hindu scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita, right? And I wanted to teach a lesson from that in science class. Do you think Kirk Cameron would enjoy that? No. Pretty sure Kirk Cameron would lose his mind if I did that. But it's perfectly a-okay to, say, take passages from the Bible, the Christian version of the Bible, not the Jewish version or whatever, not the Torah, but just the Christians. If I were to take that and, teach that in science class as a counterpoint to Darwinian evolution, or just evolution in general, because, Darwin is not the first and last word on evolution. Not really. Not anymore. If I were to do that, I think Kirk Cameron would be a-okay with that. See, because it's only his religion that gets this special treatment. It's only what he believes that he gets to push. He gets to push what he believes on everybody else. That's how it works when you have privilege, right? And if we don't allow that in American schools. And this is what Christians refer to when they talk about being oppressed. Oh, we're so oppressed. The secular authorities are always, they're banning Christian books from schools. It's like, no, we're banning your attempts to hijack education to spread your to proselytize. Because you're not allowed to do that, because the very first law in the, Constitution says that government will not do that. That we're not allowed to use the force of the government to do that. Public schools are a function of the government. This is why you can have a private school. You can have a private Christian school where you can teach all the shit that you want. You can do that in a private Christian school all you want. You can have lesson plan after lesson plan about how God personally came down and created every single frog and tree and caterpillar and cockroach and zebra personally out of clay or whatever. You can go ahead and do that. Now he crafted every single butterfly wing and every single bacteria and put them all on a boat, right? When he decided to murder everyone on Earth for some reason. But he didn't want to kill all them, so he had to do, tell a guy to make a big ass boat instead of just, teleporting everybody away. Or why would he want to drown everyone? Can he just snap his fingers, make all the sinners die, just make them just disappear, kind of like Thanos and shit? Like, why do you got to drown people? But anyway, you can do those stupid fucking lesson plan, brainwashing shit all you want in a private school. That's why it's a-okay there, but it's not a-okay in a public school, because public schools are public. They are a function of the government. Your tax dollars pay for them, and as such, they have to be inclusive of everyone, right? we have a right. If you're a parent in this country, you have a right to send your kid to school and expect that they will be not be indoctrinated into somebody else's religion. That's the other thing that they never talk about when they talk about like religion in schools and stuff like that. You know, and they like, what about my right to send my kid to school and not have him be indoctrinated into your religion? What if I'm a Presbyterian, for example, right? And I don't want my kid becoming a Baptist because I don't believe in the same shit. Or what if I'm a Mormon? That those are Christians, right? What if I'm Catholic, right? And I don't, but you're giving my son or my daughter, you know, lessons from the Bible that I don't recognize. It's not the right version of my Bible. You see how this shit works? It's like, no, you can't, can't do this and make it equal or fair, right? So that's why the founding fathers very, very wisely, in my opinion, decided to just cut that shit out completely. That is one of the good things the founding fathers put into the Constitution, right? You know, too bad they didn't do the same thing about, like, say, voting rights and slavery. But they got that part right. They got the do not use the government to spread your religion part right, as far as I'm concerned. So why am I talking about Kirk Cameron and As You Grow? Well, so he's been going around to libraries and stuff as sort of a counterpoint against the what they see as an invasion from trans people and drag queens. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to take back story hour from the drag queens and the transes and stuff like that. And they're getting a little bit of pushback because people don't like them because they're bigots, right? So here's one in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I want to show this to you guys here. Let's go ahead and turn on my window. This is the Tennessee Star. Hendersonville Library Director fired amid fallout of Kirk Cameron's Storytime event. Right. Long story short, we don't really need to read this entire thing, but I'll put this down in the chat for you guys down here so that you can read this on your own. Long story short, Kirk Cameron showed up at this library to promote his stuff, and some of the people at the library got a little pissed. We don't actually need to read this. I'll just summarize it for you. Some of the people at the library got a little pissed because they didn't like him, and this resulted in the director of the library getting fired. Because, when people protest their storytime events and stuff, there's consequences. See, when Proud Boys and fucking Patriot Prayer and the Oath Keepers and other assorted dipshit mutants show up to protest the drag queen storytime hours around the country, and they do things like bring firearms and guns and shoot out power stations in order to like cancel it. When that kind of shit happens, there usually is no consequences. Nobody actually does anything. None of those people are held accountable for anything. The cops don't step in. Usually the cops will just stand by and let it happen because, as far as they're concerned, as long as there's no violence, it's cool. Even when there is violence, sometimes the cops just turn their heads the other way as long as it's the leftists and the trans people getting beat up. Usually they just turn the other way and let it go. Once they start fighting back, however, then the cops get involved. That's kind of how this shit happens. But when you protest one of their things, if you, work at that library, for example, and you don't like it that these hateful bigot assholes show up and start spreading bullshit about trans people or drag queens, then there's consequences. Right? To kind of show you, because I'm saying bigot, so you go, Kirk Cameron, he's not a bigot, right? Yeah, well, I mean, maybe in the sense that he's talking shit about, he's buying into the groomer narrative, right? So, in that sense, yes, he's a bigot. and I stand by that. Anybody who buys into that idiotic groomer narrative shit is definitely a bigot. But he's actually the guests that are with him are a pretty wide assortment of Terfs and other assorted MAGA chuds. For example, Missy Robertson from Duck Dynasty was one of his special guests. Duck Dynasty, of course, is known for being, very bigoted, homophobic views and comments. The father on that show, I think his name is like Robert Dynasty or whatever, or Robert Robertson. I don't know. I can't remember the husband, the lead dude with the beard on that show has equated homosexuality with bestiality. So she was there. Another sort of turf person, Bethany Hamilton. She's a surfer and an anti-trans sports activist. Basically, basically a turf who surfs. She's the surfing turf. Anyway, her big thing is that she became a champion surfer despite only having one arm, and has spoken out, been a very big advocate for preventing trans women from competing in sports. Because apparently, I guess she doesn't want to be outcompeted. I mean, I don't know. We've got this. I've got this little video of her here that I want to play for you guys. So this is. Let's move this over here. Let's turn on my window. This is. Oh wait. There we go. Wait, was that on this whole time? Were you guys looking at my shit? You were, weren't you? Oh well. Fuck it. Okay. Anyway, so this is Bethy Hamilton. She is a you know handicapped surfer. She's got one arm. Don't know what happened to her arm. Don't care. Anyway, here's a video of her saying that she won't be competing because they're allowing transgendered women to actually compete as surfers. So let's see what she's got to say about that.
Today, I want to address the news that the World Surf League has officially made the rule that male-bodied individuals known as transgender athletes can officially compete in the women's division.
There we go.
The World Surf League says they are following the Olympic guidelines. While I address this issue, I want to be clear that I strive to have love for all of mankind, regardless of any differences. But this can...
Yeah. I have love for everybody. Everybody. Except these people that I am directly discriminating against. But no, I still love you. I totally love you. Kind of, you get this a lot from Christians and stuff. I love the sinner, but I hate the sin. It's like, no, you don't. That is the biggest fucking cop-out ever. No, you don't. No, you don't. Right? If you loved the sinner, you wouldn't be doing shit to make their lives worse. Okay? If you actually cared about somebody and you cared about their welfare, then you don't do shit to fuck them up. Right? For example, let's take a drug addict, right? If you actually love someone who's a drug addict, do you throw them in jail? Or do you try to get them help? Right? Do you get them fired from their job if you love them? Or do you try to get them into rehab? Right? Which one of those things do you do? Because one of them is punishing somebody, the other one is helping them. So she loves everybody, then why are you punishing them? Taking away the ability for someone to compete in a sport, right, because of the way they are, is punishing them. And you're punishing them for the fact that they chose to take a step and come out of the closet. That's why you're punishing them. You're punishing them because you don't like a choice they made, right? Well, here's the thing, right? Let's just, because I don't personally believe this. I don't personally believe that being gay or being trans is a choice. I do not believe that. I believe that it's some kind of, intrinsic characteristic that one is born with. And people who are, serious about it were born that way and don't really have an option. Like, if they don't express themselves, then they'll be suffering. That's what I believe. Right? So, but here's the thing. Even if it was a choice, let's just imagine for a second, hypothetically, that being gay or being a trans person is a choice, and you can decide to be that if you want or not. Right? Let's just imagine that. Why would that make a difference? Why should it matter? So what if you decide to be gay, for example? So what you just like, you know, let's just imagine some alternate universe where you can just turn your sexuality on or off, right? And you can just choose who you're attracted to, or you can choose how you want to express yourself, whatever, right? Let's just imagine that's the thing. Why should anybody be punished for making a choice like that? That does not hurt anybody. What? How does it hurt anyone if you're trans, for example? If you're gay, or if you're trans, like, how does that hurt anybody at all? How is anybody else except you affected by that, right? If you compete in sports, and like she just said here, that the world surf people or whatever have decided to you know, follow the same guidelines that the Olympics use, then how does that hurt anybody? I mean, the Olympics is not some rinky-dink fly-by-night operation. They've got rules and, you know, people, professional athletes who are setting these rules. So if they decide that, hey, well, a trans person can compete if they've been on CRT for this long, or if they have, if we can prove that there's like this amount of whatever hormone in their bloodstream, blah 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 blah, right? If they have determined that that's fair, then who the hell are you to like say that shit isn't fair? I mean, are you one of the, right? No, these are, at what point do we like, these are the professionals, these are the experts. I mean, why should we not trust what the experts think? You know what I mean? Like, so what? How is it? How are any of these people being hurt by this? It's the fact that she doesn't want to compete against them at all. It's not the idea that a trans woman will have, advantages because of like, prior muscle mass gained when they were like, before they transitioned or some shit like that. You know, that's not really it at all. It's like it's actual discrimination. It's this it's basically it's basically toxic feminism is what it is. That's what Terfs and shit, that's what they are. It's basically essentially toxic feminism, right? Where even an idea like, all women should be treated equally as men can be bent around. And if, can be bent around and applied in such a way to where it promotes discrimination. That's what's going on right here. Let's listen to a little bit more of this.
Concerns me as a professional athlete that has been competing in the World Surf League events for the past 15 plus years, and I feel that I must speak up and stand up for those in position that may feel that they cannot say something about this. I think many of the girls currently on tour.
That's another thing that you often get from, turfs. Turfs and bigots and all these other things. They always say shit like that. They always go, lots of people think this way, but they're too afraid to say something. Well, I'm going to say it. I'm going to stand up for what they say. This is what they all, privately, they come to me and they say, thank you for taking a stand and all this other shit. It's like, no, get the fuck out of here. No, they don't. No, they don't, right? That's a tactic. That's a tactic to make it sound like there's more of them out there than there actually are, right? It's designed, what that tactic is for is so that if there's somebody at home who actually does feel that way, then they can kind of feel like they're justified saying, well, I'm part of the silent majority. And all the people really think the same way that I think. They're just too afraid of getting canceled or whatever, right? It's the same reason that, They say the exact same thing, like somebody like Scott Adams, for example, the creator of Dilbert, will say the exact shit about racism and say like, well, everybody out there is really racist. I'm not the only one. Everybody out there thinks these things. Like one thing that Scott Adams said in his last little interview, where he came out as a full blown fucking white nationalist. Like essentially, he's not okay, I'll rephrase. He's not a white nationalist. He seems to be more of a race realist. That's Scott Adams, right? One of the things he said in his in one of his live streams, because like, he has a YouTube channel, like it's still there, is that he said that when black people get money, the first thing they do is leave black neighborhoods. And so they agree with me. They agree that living in black neighborhoods is shitty. And it's like, well, and then he'll turn around and go, why is it shitty? And they'll just leave that question dangling. It's like, well, you could explain why, yes, people when they get money they move to richer neighborhoods. And yes, you could explain that the black people live in poor neighborhoods, but are they poor because black people live there? Like that's what he's leaving out there. He's leaving that out there for people to make that leap on their own. He won't straight out say it, but that's what he does. That sort of begging the question kind of approach to racism, where they just leave the dots to be connected by you, and it gives them plausible deniability, right? That's the same kind of shit that's going on here. That's exactly what this girl is saying. It's like, oh, they're too chicken shit to actually say it. All these other people out there really agree with me, but they're just afraid of being canceled. They're afraid that they'll lose their careers, but I don't care. I'm gonna stand up for it. It's like, the fuck out of my face. Moving on.
Are not in support with this new rule, and they fear being ostracized if they speak up. So here I go. Questions I have that I want to consider with you. How is this rule playing out in other sports like swimming, running, MMA? Have any of the current surfers in the...
How is it playing out? The exact same rule. How's it playing out? It's playing out fine. Here's the thing, is that you only hear about this shit, right? They only make a big stink when a trans athlete wins. When they don't win, it's not that big of a fucking deal. Let's get rid of this dumb bitch. Let's turn her off for now. Anyway, you get the idea. That's one of Kirk Cameron's guests. Another one, very interesting guest, is Riley Gaines. Riley Gaines is sort of and she's on this book tour with Kirk Cameron, right? Riley Gaines is a rising star in conservative Christian speakers, right? And her claim to fame was that in 2020, about a year ago, she competed in a swim meet, right? It was the NCAA's Women's Championship in roughly a year ago, February 2022. And she tied for 5th place in the 200 freestyle final at this championship with a woman named Leah Thomas, who is a trans woman, right? So she didn't even win. Okay, it was tied for 5th place. And she got really butthurt over this because the trophy went to Leah Thomas, right? Here's the thing. Leah Thomas actually beat her. She came in like 100th of a second before she did. So that was close enough to where they considered it a tie, right? And what happened is that the trophy went to Leah Thomas, and they said, okay, well, we'll mail you a trophy. So she'll still get a 5th place trophy. She still got it. And they said, well, you can pose on the podium if you want to take pictures. Here's the 6th place trophy. And you can go up and take pictures with that if you want. Sorry, but they only had one trophy. So the trophy went to the person who actually won, right? But keep in mind, this was 5th place. So they weren't, it wasn't like the trans woman came in and just dominated and stole it from all of the cis women. No. 5th fucking place. Okay, who gives a shit about the 5th place in a fucking swim meet? Do you care about that? Who the fuck cares? I mean, is that something to fucking brag about? Hey, I got 5th place. What do they give you for fucking 5th place? Like, what, a free pot roast? Right? Fucking joke. But apparently, this was such a big fucking deal that Riley Gaines just got incredibly butthurt over that, and has like somehow like managed to fucking monetize her butthurtedness into like becoming a fucking like conservative like speaker. And this is how Riley Gaines makes money now. She created a fucking website, rileygaines.com. Right, here's our website here. So well, you can turn this on for you guys. This is Riley Gaines' fucking website. Swimming against the current. And oh, it's got a nice little Bible verse here. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. Isaiah 43:2. I like how that is in text that you can barely fucking read. like like I don't know, are they embarrassed of that? And also like how it's, I mean they didn't even buy the image from Getty. It's like when you actually pay for this image from Getty, they're supposed to like take the fucking watermark off here. Like, what is that shit? Like quit being cheap. Pay for the image. So anyway, that's fucking Riley Gaines, right? And she's going around and she's becoming really really popular in various places. She was at the fucking God, where the hell was she? Oh, here's a quote from her. So from Riley Gaines, she told the Daily Wire, in regards to her having to actually give the trophy to the person who won and not her, right? It was a bit disheartening. It really was. I left the pool with no trophy, not a big deal, but that was the goal I had set all year. Well, maybe you need to, if you would have actually won, you would have got the trophy, but you didn't win. The other person was faster than you, and it was the fucking fifth place trophy. For that's what really gets me, is that it wasn't first. It wasn't even like the first place. It's like fifth place, for fuck's sake. Like fifth place is like nothing to be fucking proud of. Fucking joke. So anyway, she was at fucking the State of the Union address this year. Just to kind of show you that, how like popular this woman Riley Gaines is getting. She was the guest of State Representative Lisa McClain from Michigan. She spoke at CPAC. She testified before the VA House Subcommittee on basically saying like transgender women in sports is like a fucking such a big fucking problem that what it is Congress, there's a bill called the I got it written right here. The name of this bill is the where is the bill? Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act of 2023, which they're going to try to pass, which will never pass, by the way, because it'll never get through the Senate. But apparently, this is where she went to go speak to this subcommittee where they're putting this bill together. Here's the thing that really gets me, folks, right? There are a very, very, very low number of actual transgender students in the country. There's only something like, I think it's like less than 1% of people in the nation are transgendered. So that would be around like less than 3 million. Not very many, right? Of people in high school who are transgendered, there we really have no idea how many there are. Low estimate I saw was about 0.4%. High estimate says 1.8%, which I don't think it's that high personally, but I have no way of knowing. So even taking that 0.18%, like if that were true, if 0.18% of all high school students were transgendered, which it most likely is not, then you would say, well, that would mean, if that ratio um, was the same for like students who are like into sports, because there's around 8 million high school students who are like play sports in the country, right? then that would mean that there would be about 35,000 transgendered students who are into sports in the country, which is out of 8 million. That's barely any. But the thing is that we know it's not that many because only about 14% of transgendered students report that they're interested in sports at all, that they actually play any sports. So it's way, way lower than that, right? And it's to the point, like, I think Tennessee, they banned transgendered girls from competing in Tennessee, and there was like one actual like athlete who was transgendered in like in all the high schools in Tennessee. So it's like a very, very, very tiny, like basically a made up problem is what this is, right? A made up problem. And they are trying to pass a national law in order to outlaw this in every state in the country. And that just kind of goes to show you what the Republicans have on the shelf. They are spending valuable time and resources basically addressing issues that are like non-issues. It's a non-issue, you know. It's like, first off, it's not important because no one really gives a fuck about women's sports, right? Nobody does. Nobody fucking cares about women's sports. Even like high school women's sports, nobody gives a shit about that. Right? When was the last time before this controversy started that anybody fucking cared about that at all? Like, never. It's not a thing, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, it affects such a small number of people that, like, you know, it's not a thing that we should be wasting. We don't, like, the most valuable resource we have, folks, is time. That's the most like, you out there right now, your most valuable resource is not money, it's time. Time is the one thing you never get back. You get more money, right? You can get more of everything but time. How you spend your time is the most valuable thing of all. And when it comes to politics, that's important too, because there's shit out there that we need to fix. And there's very important things that if we got to do something about them. Basically homelessness, drug addiction, fucking global climate change, and like the increasing number of natural disasters that are just fucking happening on a daily fucking basis. You ever notice that every single week there's news of another disaster out there somewhere in the country? Whether it's like, you know, Texas freezing and everybody losing access to power, or whether it's like fucking 10 tons of snow dumping on somebody's house in Northern California, or a hurricane happening off the coast of Florida that destroys Puerto Rico or something, or wildfires in California. That shit's happening every fucking year. Or wildfires in Arizona and Nevada, in Colorado. It's not just California. Wildfires are happening fucking everywhere on the western half of the country. We got to do something about this, right? And each day that goes by, it'll just get worse and it'll get more expensive and more people's lives will be ruined until we fucking start doing something about it, right? And in the meantime, while all this shit is happening, while all these people out there need help, the conservatives and the Republicans are passing laws to stop a transgender girl from swimming. That's the real crime here. You know, they're wasting time. They're spending money and wasting time while real people need help. Because they don't have solutions for real people. They don't care about real people. They only, the reason why they're doing all this shit with the transgendered sports and all that, because it pisses their base off, and they'll get reelected. Because the real reason Republicans are in power is to run away with is to deregulate, cut taxes, and steal all the money. That's the real reason why they're in power. Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.